Good day, afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you find yourself, and welcome to another edition of Building Decarbonization Coalition Presents. And today we have just a fantastic topic. You know, everybody talks about at this stage of the transition, we need to find a way to really help people figure out how they can get to full electrification. And where are those concierges that can help us, really bringing together all the different pieces of the trades that already understand the information on electrification, the technologies, the costs, how to negotiate it, what to do with your electrical panel, all those things. If only there were organizations that could help provide that sort of resource. And we have just that today. So excited to have the organization QuitCarbon come on and talk to us about lessons learned as carbon concierges. So excited. Such a critical moment for this conversation. I've been telling people lately that building decarbonization will never be this hard. This is the hardest that building decarbonization will ever be. And it's only going to be getting better from here. Because the market will grow and we'll get better at it. And it's the folks like QuitCarbon that'll help us reach that next stage of the transition. So thank you for joining us today. Very excited about the conversation. Next slide, please. Just a brief reminder about the Building Decarbonization Coalition. We are a coalition of stakeholders that work on building decarbonization through electrification. We're up to about 300 members. Those of you that are members on the call, thank you for your membership and your support. And 2022 has been an amazing year for building decarbonization, working with you all, and we're very much looking forward to an even more incredible year in 2023. If you're not a member, we got some big changes to the membership program coming up. Highly recommend you become a member if you're interested in today's conversation or any conversation on building decarbonization. Next slide, please. And this is what our membership currently looks like. As I said, we got some big changes coming to the membership program. So I would say don't be scared off by any of the dollar signs up there. I'd say sign up at whatever level you're comfortable with in December of 2022, and we're going to be announcing some big changes in January of 2023. And we're excited about the full range of different member benefits that we're going to be able to extend to a much wider audience in 2023. In brief, this is our thoughts about how you get to full decarbonization of the building stock. First and foremost, we need to stop digging the hole any deeper through building codes, preferably at the highest policy level possible. If the federal government's going to do it, and we should be doing it at the state level. And sometimes you got to get a bunch of locals to do stuff before you can get the state to move. And so we got to stop the expansion of the gas network. Number two, we need to send a really clear message to the market about when we're going to stop selling gas appliances in jurisdictions around the country, in states and in cities. And so we need to be making sure that the supply chain knows what's coming so that they can be preparing for that transition. And critical to that is really building up the building decarbonization market. How do we support all parts of the supply chain, the customers, the utilities, et cetera, in this transition? And so we need to do all of this with a focus on making sure that this was as much as possible an equitable transition. Building decarbonization is not unique, but I think has a particular challenge that if we are haphazardly successful, we could potentially have negative consequences for already marginalized communities that already pay a disproportionate amount of their income for energy. And so we need to be doing this in a very thoughtful and equitable way. Next slide, please. So we think that there needs to be 5 overall ways that we approach reaching those goals. We need to dramatically increase awareness of the benefits of building electrification. We need to make sure that customers and installers are getting a good value proposition out of building electrification. Otherwise, neither party will want to go down this path with us. We need to make sure the supply chain is getting a very clear message about where the market's going, and have barriers such as inadequate building infrastructure taken out of their way. And then we need to make sure that all of our policies are aligned so that we're not, on one hand, encouraging the expansion of the fossil fuel networks, and on the other hand, trying to stop the expansion. And so we need to make sure all of our policies are aligned in the right way. If we get all 5 of those done, we think that we are well on our path to the full mainstreaming of building electrification. Next slide, please. So these webinars, excuse me, it's that time of year. These webinars are part of that goal number 1. How do we increase awareness about the benefits of building decarbonization? And these webinars are a chance for us to be able to bring in some of the top thinkers and doers, the technologists, the facilitators, the concierges, to be able to talk about what they're seeing in the marketplace, what they're bringing to the marketplace, what we need to be doing to build that marketplace. We have a very exciting January 19th BDC Presents, where we're going to be bringing in one of the 2 exciting companies that are working on 120 volt induction ranges. We're going to be bringing in Channing Street Copper to be talking about their product and its potential to significantly help drive not only building decarbonization, but also building resilience as well. So please join us on the 19th. You can register on our website for that webinar. Next slide. We're about to get right to it. So we got 107 people on here, and so we can't leave everybody just free to be taking phone calls or doing their dishes or other stuff in the background and drown out the noise. So everyone's muted. Thank you for being muted. Please ask your questions via chat, and we'll ask the questions a heat pump side chat style at the end of the remarks. This webinar is being recorded, and members of the coalition can access the recording on the website afterwards. So if you're a member of the coalition, you're going to have access to this recording, slides, and then some notes that our staff take for each of these presentations, as well as many other great benefits. So join the coalition and get some really great benefits from us. All right, next slide is the transition to QuitCarbon. So I welcome the QuitCarbon team to please open up and get ready to get started. QuitCarbon it's a new organization, but it's really made up of experienced professionals that have been working in and around the climate space for a while on the building sector. And they saw a very clear opportunity based on a big need around carbon concierges. And so they're going to talk to us about what they're doing and then what they're learning about the market right now, where the market's going, what's needed, where are the challenges, and where do we need to be really focusing our efforts going forward. I am so excited to be bringing QuitCarbon to you. They're some of the, I think, most consistent commenters in social media on building decarbonization, and excited they're getting out of the Twitter and into the webinar with us today. So with that, QuitCarbon folks, take it away.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Panama. What a terrific intro. So appreciate it. Paul, let's see, just making sure everybody can see and hear, and let's dive in. So I'm Cooper. I'm joined by Adam today, and we're supported by many more quitters, including Ted and Ben and Amelia and Brody and Bao and other Ben and Nick and other Nick and Dan and Tom and Sydney, and our contractor partners, our homeowner clients, and our industry, in quotes, supporters. Is this an industry? Let's hope so. Let's make it so. I have a background in starting and growing businesses. I spent 2.5 years at Pacific Gas and Electric, leading the team that built the wildfire risk model that now directs over $1 billion a year in annual spending. And while I was there, I learned that PG&E and other utilities are going to do a terrific job of supplying electricity for our glorious electrified future, but they're going to need a hand with getting individual homes off of gas. So I turned my attention to this challenge, joined up with Adam, and here we are today. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I'm Adam Klaus. I've spent my whole career in progressive politics and advocacy, and climate change has always been one of my most important personal issues. And for a long time, I was content with working for organizations that worked on climate. But I also really like to build things and tinker, and learning about home electrification really set off a light bulb for me that this was an impactful way to start making our future world. So I've jumped in, teamed up with Cooper, and yeah, QuitCarbon is now the way we're doing that. So why are we doing this? First and foremost, we're motivated and also terrified by the climate crisis. We've reached the phase where we know a lot about what we have to do to avert the worst impacts of climate change. And now we just have to start doing it as rapidly as possible. We don't have to tell you all that home electrification is a significant piece of the solution and it runs through each of our lives. So we got excited about electrification, but when we set out to implement it in our own homes, we found out it was really hard. Contractors, if they called us back, tried to talk us out of it. They offered wildly differing system recommendations and bid prices, and the bids were really expensive. We were frequently overwhelmed by complexity and got stuck. We did work, only to find out that we had to redo some of it when we got to the next project. So we really wished we had a friend, a coach, a mentor, even a therapist sometimes, to help us figure out if we were doing the right thing. But in that process, we learned a bunch, and we wanted to figure out if there are ways to share that knowledge and help others electrify. And QuitCarbon was born from that.
So here's the problem as we see it. Getting electrification done involves a series of transactions, interactions between homeowners and contractors, and maybe other industry players. And the way the marketplace is set up currently, there's a lot of misaligned perspectives, needs, and knowledge that leads to uncertainty and inefficiency that just slows down our progress towards addressing the climate crisis. On the homeowner side, folks are lucky if they can get contractors to call them back, and homeowners, they don't really have the right information to evaluate these contractors. They typically don't have the technical knowledge to know specifically what they should be buying, and they don't understand how their homes work, especially not as systems. They may get parts of it, but how does it all fit together? Hard to understand. Often they wait for an emergency to replace things when they break, which, as many of you know, is one of the worst times to try to electrify. And they have little knowledge of reasonable costs, and this leads to feelings of uncertainty and doubt that just impair progress.
And then on the contractor side, there's not enough of them. Some of them lack knowledge of electric alternatives. Most of them are licensed only in electrical or plumbing or HVAC, when whole home electrification requires all of these. You know, it's easiest to sell what you know, and that's fossil gas, because that's what we've been doing for a long time. There are some high-end firms who do great electrification work. It tends to be expensive and very bespoke, and not something that is going to scale. Because of that division of labor, they're not always incentivized to think about the whole home and the full electrification. They're very busy. I mean, there's lots of work. There's not enough of them. So there's not time to teach homeowners how this should work. It's a unique culture among contractors, and they're protective of that, understandably. These are important skill jobs. And then they do a lot of bids, and most of those bids end up going nowhere. So there's a lot of going out to houses and quoting that never turns into a job. And so these mismatches lead to unnecessary time, money, and frustration that get in the way of the speed and the scale we need. QuitCarbon works on both sides, sitting in the middle to make sure both homeowners and contractors are working in concert to help them proceed with confidence, executing projects in the right order to build toward fully electrified homes.
Now, let's be really clear. We are not in any way disparaging contractors or saying they're doing their jobs wrong. We are loving contractors. We know that they're deeply invested in our communities. They're difficult businesses to run. These are small businesses with lots of overhead and challenges around workforce. And they're difficult in ways that most of us don't even know about or think about. And just telling them that they need to make changes for the sake of the planet, it's just not going to work. We want there to be lots more well-paying jobs in the trades. And we want to ensure that those trades folks are making the most of their hard-won and valuable skills Our goal is to build confidence with contractors and show them that there's this reliable set of work in this rapidly growing market that they can build thriving businesses around electrification work. Our message is not change your business. It's that we help articulate the value of your work and help contractors sell their services to clients who are prepared to buy electrification retrofits. So as an example, we built a relationship with an electrician in San Francisco. As we've brought his firm work, he's shown more willingness to answer our questions about job scope and technicalities, all in ways that help us set better expectations for the next clients. We've been able to teach him things about electrification like smart EV chargers that become additional services that he could sell through his business. It's a real partnership and it works.
So a little bit about how our process currently works. First, we learn about the homeowner and their home through a survey, photos, utility usage data, and a video interview. Second, we draft a custom quitting plan that recommends projects and the right order of operations to fully electrify their home. Third, when a homeowner is ready to move forward, we refer them to one of our contractor partners. Fourth, we review the bids that come back from the contractors to the customers to ensure that they're getting the right thing for a fair price. Fifth, the contractor performs the work. Sixth, we help with rebate processing and tax incentives. And seventh, we update the plan and help the homeowner move through steps 3 through 6 for the remaining electrification projects as they're ready. And then finally, after we cap that gas line, we celebrate. Yay.
Woohoo! So every successful project starts with a plan. It's hard to sell a $40,000 whole home retrofit, and asking people to make a plan first is much easier. Countries, states, municipalities are all also making their own plans to phase out fossil fuels. Shouldn't homeowners be making plans as well? So we make plans for our homeowner clients, and they include recommendations for electrifying each remaining system in the home, along with identifiable and clear next steps for moving forward. Now, by preparing these plans for each client, we gain valuable visibility into the systems of each home and the requirements for upgrading all of them. And it allows us to anticipate future needs and lay out an optimal order of operation. For example, paying $100 more to run a slightly larger conduit now could save $1,000 later when it comes time to pull larger diameter wire to power your new electric dryer. Doing all the electrical work at once, or at least sizing the core equipment and specs for the ultimate needs, may cost a little bit upfront, but it saves a lot over the course of fully electrifying. And additionally, having plans for lots of homes means we can nudge groups of clients along their clean energy journey. Maybe IKEA has a sale on induction stoves and we can buy several at once. Maybe we can encourage folks in a particular neighborhood to take advantage of a group purchase of heat pump water heaters. Developing these plans have been a great research tool for us, and we learn and evolve the questions we ask and exactly how we should be evaluating homes in ways that are quick and effective. So we've been around formally, I guess, since early 2022, but doing research and experimentation in this space for, I think, going on 3 years. Panama, I think I did an informational interview with you over the phone. I think it's close to 3 years ago. Thanks for taking the call. And it paid off, I think. We sign up about 2 new homeowners every day. We've evaluated over 100 homes. We've developed nearly 100 quitting plans. And we've made nearly 100 referrals of homeowners to contractors. As we saw before, we're often referring a given homeowner to multiple contractors as they're executing on multiple parts of their home electrification journey. We have just over 15 contractors in our network currently, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, solar, and we're currently in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Now, just a few stats on what we're seeing about how our clients have come to electrification. Just over half of our clients have done some electrification work before coming to us, but those were mostly in the gateway products of rooftop solar and electric vehicles. And that's encouraging, at least judging from the number of homes with solar panels and the EVs already on the road. That means there's a sizable beachhead market for us to be working with.
If we exclude, go ahead, Adam.
Sorry, if we exclude solar and EVs, and we also don't look at dryers because people sometimes have those, but almost nobody did it intentionally. Most people are just getting started on their electrification journeys. So the majority of people, if you take those out, have done no electrification, or just a handful have done 1 or 2 or 3 projects. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Now, from the homeowner's perspective, we zoomed in on a few major barriers. So first, where do you even start, right? Do you do your panel? Do you add solar? Do you get a roof before solar? Should I insulate? Get new windows? Maybe upgrade wiring before insulating? It's not always clear, and every situation can be unique, but we need to find commonalities, because if every home is in fact a science project, this transition is going to go way too slow. Second, homeowners are uncertain about, are they getting the right thing? Do I want ducted or ductless heat pumps? What heating capacity, unitary or split water heaters? Different contractors may recommend different options for the same home and the same homeowner, and that can be confusing, and especially confusing part of shopping around. When you think you're shopping around to find a good price and you start getting proposals that are for wildly different scope, we've seen clients get more confused rather than less. Are you even paying that fair price, right? We know that this is not cheap work, especially in California and especially in the Bay Area. How do you know if it is a good price? And, choosing this, shopping around and choosing the best, it's a really difficult process. Can you even get folks to call you back and all their recommendations aligned? We've certainly heard multiple stories of folks shopping around and ending up more confused and less likely to proceed than before. And there's a temptation to say that our work, all of us on this call, is about making electrification easy. Part of the process can certainly be easier, but ultimately whole home electrification is going to involve multiple systems being upgraded over months or probably years. A good coach isn't going to tell you that running a marathon is easy. They're going to work alongside you to build your confidence and give you the tools to complete a difficult thing that you can feel proud of. And we think that's a really important framing here, is that this is about building confidence so that when you're looking at those proposals, when you're thinking about moving forward, you feel that confidence that you're doing the right thing.
I don't have to tell you all that homes are complicated, and electrification in homes is even more complicated. Where to start depends on the home, the age and condition of electrical systems and appliances, and the homeowner's priority. There's often no one right answer. You can just see here, there's 9 potential systems we're talking about. So that's the sort of where do I start piece of it. Then we get into some pricing things. One pricing challenge is inconsistency. So these are anonymized bids that we have seen for the same Rheem 80-gallon heat pump water heater, no electrical work, no complicated things about the home. But you can see that contractor B is consistent and least expensive, so that's great. But the others are kind of all over the place. And people are paying all of these prices because it kind of depends on who you end up with and whether you can shop around, but we definitely need some more market rationality if we're going to scale. It just can't be so scattershot. So we're starting to put together a pretty good list of bids where we can help level set for customers. Yeah, like what is reasonable and what are some of the factors that drive these? And there's other data out there as well, including from the tech rebate program that offers some visibility into what folks have been paying. So I think, yeah, a lot of our work is about visibility across jobs. So yeah, we can help people understand what goes into these.
So here's an actual quote, $10,278. That's a big number for a water heater. This is an 80-gallon, 15-amp, 240-volt Rheem heat pump water heater like we were considering before, and great, this is the one we recommend for this client. So we like seeing that, that's good. We see here that permit and inspection are included. They should be, and it's good that it's called out explicitly. Now, the electrical work needs to be performed by an electrician, that's standard, but in this case, the contractor, the plumbing contractor, is asking that the electrician be on site when the water heater is installed. That's complicated and challenging from a logistical perspective, which just adds expense and friction here. Now, there's a note here about the exhaust. This installation was going to happen in a big garage. What's the need to run an exhaust? In speaking with the contractor, we clarified that they intended to fully duct the unit, and that added $2,400, nearly a quarter of the project price. That was for work that we felt we could advise the client that they don't need to do. We know that heat pump water heaters in large garages often don't need to be ducted. Now, going forward, the contractor is itemizing that part, which is a great improvement on their part, making it more clear for the homeowners. As we see on this next slide, we also work with clients to understand and convey how the bid breaks down and compare the baseline costs of staying with gas. So let's have a look here at the same previous bid. On the left-hand column, we've taken out the $2,400 for venting, and we still see a significant difference there between the likely cost of putting in a gas water heater, 2x. That's a hard sell. But let's start factoring some things in that often aren't in bids, but are part of the ultimate economics that homeowners see and experience. So let's add some rebates. We see there the IRA tax credit and the BayREN rebate. So now we're looking a little bit better. This is helping. Now let's consider the operating costs. We look at the efficiency of the current gas water heater, which is often around 60%, which means that about 40% of the energy in the methane you burn goes straight up the chimney. Now, even though electricity is significantly more expensive per unit of energy in our current rate structure, a 380% efficient heat pump water heater will result in some really real cost savings over 15 years. And we're using CPUC projections for utility rate changes. And if you're using solar to generate some of your own electrons, these numbers can look even better. So in the end, with the right framing and modeling and presentation, the heat pump water heater looks a lot better economically. That's a big difference from where we started.
Here's another bid. This time it's for a ducted heat pump for space heating. There's a few things that jump out. So there is just, again, one big number, $18,950. You know, what's parts, what's labor? I can look on the internet and see that the 2.5 ton Mitsubishi system is about $4,500. So I can start building up to it, but there's a pretty big difference there. The manufacturer, sizing, and part of a model number for the fan coil are on here, but there's no specific product. And I don't know how to check if that meets the 18 SEER threshold for the $2,000 IRA tax credit. There's a bunch of line items about what has to be done, but it's not clear whether this is standard or it's something special about this job. And would any of it be required as part of the baseline of just getting a new gas furnace? Again, it's all lumped in. And there's also no rebates or incentives included on here. So they would likely qualify for some, but that's not called out. Well, we could show you a bunch more bids. We're just dissecting these two, but these patterns across them that we pointed out are pretty common. Then, okay, so that last bit. Here's then how we break it down for the customer. It's San Francisco, so our baseline is just comparing the $18,950 installation cost against what it would cost to put in another gas furnace, because people generally don't have air conditioning. If we're looking at a home that already has air conditioning, the baseline cost to replace both a gas furnace and air conditioning can actually be the same or more than a combined heat pump. So you're saving money off the bat, but our economics are a little tougher where we're working. So just looking at installation in this case, it's almost double the cost, that top line. Rebates take it down a bit. We hope that $1,000 BayREN rebate comes into play because currently it's only eligible for people who are replacing a furnace and an air conditioner with a heat pump, not people who are just replacing a furnace with a heat pump, but they think they're going to fix that next year. So our total upfront is looking a little better, but still $6,000 difference. And then operating costs, there's some more savings here. Unlike the water heater, the operating savings, sorry to call out, are a little bit less than the water heater case here because the furnace is 80% efficient versus a water heater that's 60% efficient. So we're just not making quite as much gain on the space heating with the heat pump. In the end, they're going to be paying about 10% more over 15 years for a heat pump. But unlike the water heater, you know, hot water is mostly just hot water for people. We can emphasize the value side of the equation. That $3,227 buys them air conditioning, buys them better, more even, more comfortable heat provided by a heat pump, more continuous filtration. So there's definite upsides that they're getting there. And then we can also throw in there's local air quality and climate benefits. Those are a little more abstract, but we know that they're motivating for some. So we can start to put some real benefit behind that cost difference. And that makes it easier to sell.
Now, in those previous analysis, we were looking at operating cost summed up over 15 years. But we've got a little challenge in some cases where electrified homes may cost more to operate initially than gas homes. And we're concerned that especially low, moderate income folks are potentially being asked to pay this temporary green premium by programs that encourage electrification of these homes, perhaps without enough consideration of the utility bill impacts in the near years. The out years are crystal clear, right? You save money with electrified homes eventually. But what about next month and the month after? We have some concerns that electrification could get a bad rap if the immediate post-electrification experience is higher bills. And these operating costs are really dependent on the efficiency of the incumbent gas equipment. We see that just makes a big difference. We also see that utility rates are often not ideal for encouraging electrification. Gas is too cheap and electricity is too expensive. And we think that rates need to change if we're going to encourage widespread electrification so that utility bill impact is positive, cheaper from month one. Now, solar can help a lot if our clients, if homeowners have a good roof and can afford solar. Producing your own solar energy at perhaps half the price of grid electricity dramatically improves the calculus. But we do have a lot of concerns about what happens when electrification raises utility bills for folks that can't afford it. Now, rebates and incentives, they're great, free money, but they're not free because they're so complicated. There's all sorts of different levels, federal tax credits and rebates through HERA, state programs like TEC and California Energy Smart Homes here in California. And these programs can be a little different depending on your location in the state. There's, of course, regional programs like BayREN and CCAs, and even local city and county programs. Then there's lots of requirements, income tiers, the ability to layer or not layer these programs. Does the contractor get paid or does the homeowner get paid? How long does it take to get paid? Sometimes many months delay between filing and receiving. Only certain projects meet certain requirements to qualify, and only often if you work with a contractor that is registered with the program. And even if you legally DIY, do it yourself, you may not qualify, which could slow adoption. We've noticed that the rules and terms and conditions are often not easily available prior to starting the application process. And it's totally possible that you get through your project and then discover you forgot to take some pictures of the machines that you replaced. There's uncertainty about future programs that we see causing some folks to delay projects currently. All of these great programs out there, the complexity really starts to reduce the value to the homeowner. And look, we're not naming names here, but there's an incentive program that pays out in TJ Maxx gift cards. There's real improvements to be made here, and we're excited to see them come through the hard work of many of you on this call. This complexity needs to be addressed if we are going to accelerate decarbonization.
All right, as we evaluate and plan for electrification of more and more homes, we're starting to gain some knowledge that helps us make better technical recommendations for electrification projects. We're calling this paratechnical knowledge. Sorting out what's lore versus science is tricky because lore is fast, science is expensive, but starting to document and make this kind of knowledge accessible to more people feels like a vital part of speeding the energy transition. There's a few areas we'll touch on next, including electrical panel optimization. Then there's also HVAC sizing for heat pumps, and finally, efficiency improvements on work sites. And a huge caveat is that we know we still have lots to learn here, and we absolutely invite collaboration with folks who can help our understanding.
So many of the homes we look at have 100-amp panels, and many of those homeowners have had electricians tell them that step one is upgrade to 200 amps. But with careful planning and the right scoping, we think we can fully electrify most 100-amp homes. And we want to offer a huge thanks right now to Josie Galliard and Tom Kabat and Sean Armstrong and all the great folks at Redwood Energy for helping teach us how to do this and help us put it into practice. Now, because they have to be counted at 125% of their amperage when calculating loads, EV chargers are often, electric vehicle chargers, they're often the single biggest hog user of panel space or amperage capacity. For our clients with smaller service capacities, our default recommendation has become smart EV chargers like the Wallbox Pulsar Plus and Emporia that can monitor load and only charge within the available electrical capacity, which in most homes is most of the time. There is mostly electricity available. We're also careful to recommend the lowest possible amperage of heat pump water heaters. It's frustrating when we run into a situation like the one in this photo where there's a 30-amp heat pump water heater on a 100-amp electrical panel. That 30-amp choice may be the thing that pushes this home into doing a costly service upgrade in order to electrify that gas furnace that you see next to the water heater. And as far as we can tell, there are no incentives that encourage service optimization, except, of course, the economic imperative to avoid it. Minimizing the need for service upgrades also has the potential to save upstream grid costs of upgrading transformers and local distribution equipment. The IRA tax credits maybe even push us in the opposite direction here by applying only to upgrades to 200-amp service.
All right, I'm going to get extra nerdy here for a second. Utility data from smart meters is a powerful tool for understanding some basic dynamics about homes and their energy usage. With it, we can help clients understand their emissions profile and target projects for carbon reduction. One thing we've been workshopping is how to get in the right ballpark for heat pump sizing based on peak gas usage. And a shout out to Dan Johnson and Nick Brown for all their help. Maybe looking at actual energy usage from gas could tell us something about the needs you have for electrified energy usage. Here's one client we're working with. Their peak gas meter reading in the last year was 4.3 therms, and that was just on 5 days out of the year, but we want to size things to deal with those 5 coldest days. And just to note, this client keeps their thermostat set at 70, so that gas usage represents pretty normal heating patterns. And I'm going to skip over the actual math here in the interest of time, but the point is, it's laid out in the bullet points if you want to read it. The point is, we have data and logic that tells us the peak amount of heat needed on the coldest hour of the coldest day of the year is about 30,000 BTUs. And in this case, we actually ran a basic manual J report that puts it at about 26,000 BTUs per hour. So we got pretty close. The bid we received from the contractor was for a 3.5-ton heat pump, which is rated for 48,000 BTUs per hour, or about a 60% oversizing. And the reasoning on it when we asked was, it gets pretty cold here sometimes. So, if that 30,000 BTU per hour load is correct, we're installing a heat pump in a home that has heating needs less than its minimum output 84% of the heating hours of the year, causing it to cycle on and off and run inefficiently. This is why heat pump sizing is so important. And the real world implication, an aesthetic implication here, is having this double-decker beast in your backyard rather than this cute little suitcase. So this pattern of oversizing is pretty consistent across homes. I first ran into it personally when I was looking for a mini split quote for my own home. One contractor recommended 2.5 tons based on a square footage rule of thumb, and another came in and recommended 1 ton. I went with the 1 ton, and it heats the home very comfortably. I had to learn that it won't warm the home as quickly as an oversized furnace, but it's a different kind of machine, so I've learned to use it differently. So we don't know everything here. There's lots of facets of building science that impact this, but we're pretty sure that without some changes, people are going to get much larger heat pumps than they need, resulting in higher equipment and installation costs, amperage concerns, extra refrigerant and potential leakage, and equipment that runs inefficiently. We would love to work closely with contractors, building science folks, and others to figure out how we can better right-size heat pump installations. Then our last piece here is about worksite efficiency. So we know we have a problem with workforce availability, but we don't talk a lot about efficiency. In our observations across multiple jobs, we're seeing some areas we think could be opportunities for substantial efficiency improvements. So scheduling between contractors and clients is a headache for both bid visits and installations. Software could definitely help with this. Equipment distribution seems to live in a different era, sometimes requiring calling in or faxing in orders. Because of scheduling and geographic constraints, most jobs end up taking a full day, whether they actually need 5 hours or 8 hours. Geographic grouping of work could be a way to allow stacking of multiple jobs in a day. And we've seen contractors interested in this, but there's really no incentive to encourage it. So even a simple water heater replacement might require an electrician to first come out and run a new circuit. Then the plumber needs to come and swap the equipment out. And then the electrician needs to return to connect the wires to the water heater. That's a lot of travel and coordination. We have seen we'd like to see more use of easier to install materials like flex conduit, PEX, press fittings for plumbing. We've seen licensed plumbers on the clock at $130 an hour make multiple trips to the supply house for parts that could easily have been anticipated in advance. And then permitting and inspection. Permanent inspections often require the contractor to block off a whole day to wait around for the inspector. We also see wildly different inspection standards between inspectors and municipalities, including some contractors who have to tout their skills in inspector whispering. And to be clear, again, this is not a criticism of contractors' work ethic. The market works like it works because that's the way it's incentivized. We think efficiency actually means more billable projects and total revenue for contractors. And we're eager to partner more closely with them and continue to learn together.
We'd love to see more support for exploring, understanding, teaching, conveying, incentivizing choices that make contractors and electrification more efficient, more productive. It's going to probably be more profitable for contractors and present better experience to homeowners as they convert their homes. So thank you. Really appreciate the time to share some of these learnings with you today. We asked for a couple things as we close here. First, we're happy to help folks. We currently serve the San Francisco Bay Area. For everywhere else, we'll put folks on our waiting list. And let us know if you'd like to collaborate. We can potentially be helpful to you achieving your decarbonization goals. Reach out anytime. Also, with any questions that we don't get to address here in the Q&A, our email helpmequit@QuitCarbon.com. Thanks so much.
Fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Let's leave this slide up here for a second for the first round of questions. Really, really great stuff. It's always great. We spend so much of our time thinking about, policies and program designs and how to working at like the upper level. And it's always fantastic to be getting news from from the front lines of building electrification and what's happening out there and what's needed. So thank you very much. And we had a really robust chat going, even though people were definitely focused on what you were saying. I'm going to start asking you some questions based on the chat. Great. And I asked you to leave your information up there because, as expected, some of the main questions around your guys' business model and how does it all work and how are you guys doing this? And so instead of asking you guys to give up your business model on a recorded video, what I'm going to say is if folks want to talk to the QuitCarbon team about how they're doing what they're doing, the email address is right there, and they said they'd be happy to talk to you and go deeper with you on what they're doing, how they're doing it, and the opportunities they see. So we won't be answering business model questions today, but they said they'd be happy to talk to you about it offline. So first question coming in, some more stories and examples of the friction reduction versus building confidence. You talked about like that's a key issue right now is friction reduction, versus building confidence, and some of the potential ways that those two don't play well together, and getting to your points about like worksite efficiency and making the sale. So any more stories or experience or anecdotes you could have around friction reduction versus building confidence?
Sure. I mean, I can think of a general point here, and Adam, you can go here in a moment too, which is maybe around benchmarking. So if a client, if a homeowner has more clarity about what's typical, both in terms of scope and price for their home, or what's recommended, or what sort of would be the median, we think that can reduce friction when it comes time to reduce friction and improve confidence when it comes time to consider whether or not to proceed with a specific contractor's bid. And getting to that level of clarity with sort of efficiency and speed across a large number of homes is challenging. But when you have a way of comparing that bid from a contractor, which is really where the proverbial rubber hits the road here, with benchmarks, baselines, what is typical out there, it can bring a feeling of confidence. Though, of course, there needs to be trust in the source of the analysis that tells you, yes, this is the right way to proceed. Adam, do you have stories?
I mean, I break it down in a couple ways. I think we reduce friction through our intake process, just learning about the home, doing it all at once, doing it mostly virtually. We've learned we can get to a good enough place for most people by doing that. I think there's a lot of friction around connecting with contractors. I know from personal experience, just the idea of who do I call? Like, do I have to call them? Can I email them? Like, do I have to read their Yelp reviews? All of this, just getting to somebody who's a solid recommendation, who is going to call me back and is going to come and make a bid and is going to send me the actual bid, like that, I think we're reducing friction. But then the confidence side of it really is, this does come down to people coming and doing big major work on your home, in your basement, in your attic, over multiple projects, and paying many thousands of dollars for it. So that's part, I think, still requires the confidence piece to decide to do it and feel like you're getting the right thing and the right value for that money.
I'll throw in one more here, Panama, which is there's sort of the meta topic here of people talking to people about their electrification experiences, and the importance of those early adopters telling great stories to their friends about how the process went well and the experience of their electrified home is better. And we have, so many ways that we need to make sure that happens. We see various requirements in incentive programs around things like permits and combustion safety test out, which are, very kind of basic level that, yeah, they make sure that your home is safe, but they don't make sure that your experience is better. And that experience can come from things like the bill impact, the sizing of the equipment and whether it's short cycling. How about the thermostat, the user interface? That place where humans touch their systems and experience their homes is hugely important. And we want early electrifiers to be saying great things about how they love their electrified homes to build up the confidence of those that follow in their footsteps.
Yes,
I will
absolutely.
say one more anecdote on building confidence is my favorite. Recently, we had one client come in who actually had a heat pump already. Then we had some people, a few blocks away who were evaluating bid for a heat pump, and they decided they wanted to see how one worked and looked like. And we connected them. They went over, they met him, they came back, they accepted the bid. Like they needed to see it in action and get that actual referral. And because we had multiple plans, we were able to make that introduction.
That is a great prompt for the Switches On's ambassador program. And so Daniela, if you could put the link to the ambassador program in the chat at some point, but we're trying to build exactly that sort of community across California so that neighbors can go and feel, touch, smell, taste the heat pumps so they can get their own. Thank you for those anecdotes, guys. Some questions in here about financing and the current state of financing for homeowners. Are you seeing a big need for that among your customers? Are you working with any financing programs currently? Are there a need for them or the need for improvements in financing programs?
Yeah, we sometimes see financing offered on the bids from the contractors, often not. We don't directly offer financing yet. There are certainly programs out there, some of which require pre-approved contractors, which may not be the same as the pre-approved contractors for the rebate programs. So now we get into sort of complexity of approval or availability. Many of our early clients have had the wherewithal to be able to pay upfront. They think of these upgrades as part of home maintenance, which indeed they are, and they're in a position to cover costs. That is not going to stay the case as we expand the benefits of electrification to folks at all income levels. And yeah, absolutely, financing is going to be important. I'm excited by what's hopefully coming based on IRA funding, backstopping financing through green banks. Can't wait to see some of that come to market. And then there's the sort of the bill impact. I mean, your bill is a form of how you pay for a thing over time. And if it's higher in the initial years, that's of concern and perhaps could be offset by clever financing models.
Great, thank you for that. A question in here about resale value and communicating to customers or communicating to potential new buyers, what all this electrification stuff is. Do you ever have customers asking you for information that they'll be able to provide to their realtors or to potential buyers, or conversations around how does electrification affect resale value or the ease of reselling the house?
Yeah, it hasn't come up specifically for us, but we're seeing some great research coming out suggesting that in most circumstances, electrified homes are worth more on the resale market, and then they drive more extra value when the local population has sort of more awareness of and concern about environmental and climate issues, which is the case more so perhaps in Northern California where we are. As the economics become more consistent and clear of owning an electrified home, we think the resale value question will also become more clear. But we'd love to see more progress from the real estate industry around highlighting electrified homes. I mean, last time I looked on Redfin, I don't think you get a special badge for an electrified home. You darn well should.
Yep, absolutely. Folks are working on it. And I think one good news is there, just yesterday, we got invited to come down and speak to the California Association of Realtors General Assembly for the first time. And so it's been a pretty antagonistic relationship up to this point. And I think they're now looking at this as this is the writings on the wall. Electrification and decarbonization is inevitable, and they need to start doing a better job of educating their members about the costs and the opportunities and how to help their clients. So agree on the need there.
Great news.
I think your conversation on oversizing heat pumps really struck a nerve with the crowd, and some questions about why do we see such a high prevalence of that? Is that just contractors covering themselves and wanting to make sure there'll never be a single day of discomfort? Is that just people not knowing how to do load calcs? Can you attribute it to any one thing?
Gosh, Adam, what are your thoughts here?
I think that's the main driver, is that they do not want a call that says my house is heating slowly. And there's education to be done that heat pumps just work differently, that they have longer ramp times, but that to get the full efficiency out of them, we need to understand how they work and adapt our behavior a little bit. And on the upside, we will get far more comfortable heat. They're just better machines, but we have to learn how to use them.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any consistent, and certainly we don't see evidence of any nefarious intent here. But we haven't seen a consistent reason, but we do see consistent behavior around what seems to be oversizing. And this certainly needs to be improved. And I think Adam's point about different ways of using the machines, we are used to, unfortunately, the bad behavior of our incumbent fossil gas furnaces that, like, when you turn them on, it's like standing in front of a hairdryer. People think that's good. It's not, but it's what they're used to. And getting folks comfortable with home heating that works in a different way, more consistently, but also perhaps more slowly or with less of a hairdryer effect, takes a concerted effort on the part of many players. Leaving it up to just the contractor is not going to be, I think, consistently effective. I think we all have to talk about how electrified homes work different and better, but different.
I haven't seen a single load calc in sizing on a bid or when asking about it. So I think we do need to figure out a way to get those to happen. If somebody's spending $20,000 on a heat pump, I think it should be fine for people to spend a couple $100s on doing a proper load calc.
I think I saw that on a bumper sticker somewhere in the Bay Area. Yep. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Any thoughts based on your lessons learned? And you hinted at this about, this needs to be a transition for everybody, for all income levels, for all communities. Any lessons learned and any thoughts around really expanding this to care customers or low income customers, and how we're going to have to change programs or approaches? Can a concierge model be a way that we can break through some of the historic barriers to be able to serve low income households?
Yeah, great question. Well, the bill impact, the post-electrification bill impact certainly comes to mind, and having there be programmatic assurances that your bills won't be higher, I think, is important. The path to widespread electrification runs through contractors, local small businesses that operate in their communities, that already have relationships, trust relationships with folks in their neighborhoods. The folks that work at contractors, they live right there in the communities they serve. We think it's really important to empower and educate the contractors to be in a position to present electrification options to clients of all sorts, wealthy and poor, and everybody in between that work for them. And doing so at the low and moderate income levels, I think, is even more complicated because of the stack of different incentive programs that may be necessary to cause the electrification project to work out well for the homeowner. Adam, do you have any further thoughts?
I just put my political hat back on here. Like, it will continue to take systemic change and the policy support to make this happen for everyone. And I don't think anybody who's fortunate enough to be an early adopter now should feel great and wash their hands of it and then check their name off the list. Like, we need to make sure that those who are going first are continuing to advocate for others. And I think people who have done it have skin in the game and are really powerful voices to push for those changes. So something I want to keep talking about with our clients. And yeah, it's electrification can start with your own home, but we need to support our neighborhoods and communities and going all the way.
Feel free to blink twice if this is going too far into the business model territory. But two quick questions in the time we have remaining. How do you deal with liability if you have an unhappy customer about the performance of the electrification? Like, how does your QuitCarbon approach deal with that? And then how much time are you finding you're spending on average, with customers? And like, I'll just add in, what's your worst type of customer?
Oh gosh. Let's see. I can address that a bit. We provide recommendations, guidance, suggestions. We're not general contractors. We're not, engineers. The work we do is the sort of educational level work that's done by so many educational websites and programs in our ecosystem, but done more specifically for individual homes with sort of customization towards individual family situations. The time we spend is getting shorter as we are getting more efficient at it. And it, of course, has to keep getting ever shorter if we're going to be able to provide this level of sort of advice, handholding, and confidence building to large number of homeowners. When our homeowner clients have work done, it's done by contractors under contract with the contractor. And so the normal aspects of, when you buy a thing, having service and responsibility held by the person who sold it to you, those are in place. We're not asking for any changes in that arena. We think that our involvement, though, can make it much less likely that you are disappointed. Right? Our recommendations, our guidance on scope and sizing and sequencing, we think will greatly reduce that potential for disappointment. I can't say we've had any customers be disappointed yet, except for one where we're still working with them a little bit, and we're pretty sure it's actually a defective machine that needs to be replaced under typical warranty. So that's just a thing that can happen with bad luck.
It happens.
Yeah.
I have to cut us off. There's so many more questions. And so I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. The email address is right there on the screen. Help me quit at QuitCarbon.com. Thank you guys so much. One, for just this webinar, but two, just what you're bringing to this community. You know, I think we need a lot more of this model here. And thank you for pioneering this model and hopefully inspiring others to really take up this model as well. So thank you for today. Thank you all for joining us. Please join us on January 19th to learn about 120 volt induction stoves with batteries. Now you can get them into your home. And have a great holidays, everybody. 2022 was an incredible year for building decarbonization, largely due to many of you on this screen. And I'm looking forward to an even more amazing year next year. So thank you all. Happy holidays. Spend it restfully and healthy with your loved ones. And we'll see you in 2023.